Call me the prime host, Justin on the mic, dropping facts coast to coast. In the game of combat, yo, I'm the one they praise. From the cage to the ring on them glory days. I talk the MMA, the jabs, hooks, and straights. Boxing legends, the raw novices.
Hey folks, welcome back to episode 3 of Combat News Today here on the Glory Days Network. I'm your host, Justin, and today we're talking about UFC NOCHE. UFC 306 coming to you live from the Sphere in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going down tonight, Saturday, September 14th. The main card starts at 10 p.m. We have a banger lineup of a card here. We have Suga Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili for the undisputed 135-pound bantamweight UFC title. In the co-main event, we also have a trilogy fight between the champion Alexa Grasso and the former champion Valentina the Bullet Schevchenko. It's sure to be a great matchup. And in our third fight of the main event, we've got Brian T-City Ortega versus Diego Lopes. It's coming to you live from the Sphere tonight at 10 p.m. Let's get into it. All right, guys, first off, I wanted to talk a little bit about the card, a little bit about the location. This is UFC NOCHE. Dana White has said UFC NOCHE is his love letter to the Mexican fighters and the legacy of Mexican fighters in combat sports. Mexican fighters historically have always had a tough, gritty, gridiron style where they get in there and they bang it out. They're not afraid to take a couple punches, to give a couple punches, and they have an intense fighting spirit. We've seen it in the past with fighters like Oscar De La Hoya in boxing, fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., fighters like Roberto Duran, Hands of Steel. There's tons of fighters in the UFC that have this same quality. And UFC 306, UFC NOCHE, is Dana White's love letter to the Mexican fighting legacy that has been a tradition throughout time. Also, this fight is going down at the Sphere in Las Vegas, one of the newest attractions in Las Vegas. The Sphere is an incredible building, a round building. It's called the Sphere because it's shaped like a sphere. It's completely covered in LED screens on the outside, covered wall, ceiling, everything in LED screens on the inside, and it is made as an immersive experience. This UFC endeavor at the Sphere is told to be one of a kind, a one of one, not to have ever been done before and probably not to be seen again. Dana White has put a lot of eggs in this basket of this being a complete experience. He's talked about the challenges that have been involved, but he's also talked about how excited he is to bring this experience to the people and to the UFC fans. The Sphere has currently been used for big acts, big shows like U2 and other household names as far as the music industry is concerned, as well as other venues, and it is built to be an immersive experience. The seats have haptic feedback machines in them. The screens, the sound, the lighting, everything is supposed to be a completely immersive experience. So I'm excited to see how this will translate to the pay-per-view broadcast, and if we're going to get the same experience at home that the people are experiencing inside the Sphere when they go to watch this thing. So I'm very excited for the venue, very excited for the event. There's tons of Mexican and Spanish fighters on this card who are all ready to show their pride and glory for their Mexican heritage and to fight their hearts out at UFC 306, UFC NOCHE, live from the Sphere tonight at 10 p.m. September 14th. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the main fights on this card and some of the great matchups we have for UFC 306. All right, as we get into the main card, I wanted to highlight the fight right before the co-main event. This is Brian T-City Ortega versus Diego Lopes. Brian T-City Ortega, in my opinion, one of the most intriguing fighters in the UFC. He's got superstar persona and quality on the microphone and in interviews. He also is a submission expert coming out of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy. Known for his submission skills, but we have seen his striking improve and evolve over the past few years in the UFC as he has fought some of the best in the featherweight division with the likes of Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Yair Rodríguez twice, Frankie Edgar. He did lose to, he lost one to Yair Rodríguez and won one against Yair Rodríguez. He did lose to Alexander Volkanovski and lost to Max Holloway, but the thing about Brian T-City Ortega is he's always in the fight. He's got that Mexican fighting spirit. He's never really out of the fight. You have to finish him to get rid of him. We saw that in the case of the beating he took from Max Holloway. Also, the punishment he took from Alexander Volkanovski. He's always in the fight. He's always right there. He can throw up a last-minute submission, even if he's getting beat up. But lately, we've seen his hands, his feet, his elbows, his Muay Thai especially play a bigger factor in these fights. I'm very excited to see what he brings to the table against the Brazilian Diego Lopes in this third to last fight in our main card. I'm really excited for this matchup. Switching gears for a second to talk about his opponent, number 13 ranked featherweight Diego Lopes out of Brazil is on a 4-fight win streak, most notably his last win over Dan Ige. He is a tough Brazilian fighter, as most Brazilians do. He's got a good jiu-jitsu game, so it's going to be interesting to see him and T-City Ortega go up against each other, but these guys are no slouches on the feet as well, so I fully expect this to be an incredible matchup. Brian T-City Ortega, number 3rd ranked featherweight, taking on number 13 ranked featherweight, so a lot of respect for him for taking that fight. I don't think a lot of people highly ranked like that in the featherweight division would fight a number 13, but T-City is always game. He got the call to fight at UFC 306, UFC NOCHE. Both these guys answered the call, and I'm really excited for this third fight on our main card. Next, let's switch gears and talk about our co-main event for the women's flyweight undisputed title. We've got the champion, Alexa Grasso, taking on Valentina the Bullet Schevchenko, the legend, in their third fight. This trilogy fight for the women's flyweight title is going to be an incredible matchup. Valentina Shevchenko is looking to regain her title, regain her position at the top of the heap in the women's UFC flyweight division. And Alexa Grasso is looking to maintain her belt, defend her belt against the legend Valentina Shevchenko. These two have gone to war twice in the past, and I don't think that this third fight is going to be anything different other than a war that we've seen these two put on before in the past. Alexa Grasso, tough Mexican fighting spirit here for UFC 306 NOCHE. She's got a combined record of 16-3-1. The legend Valentina Shevchenko has a record of 23-4-1. These are two veterans in the women's flyweight division. Coming off of their last fight, which ended in a draw. That last fight went all 5 rounds. It was a war. We saw them both put their heart on their sleeve and fight their hearts out. It's not common that we see someone get the better of Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko. Much like Amanda Nunes, people are questioning, is her prime time over? Has her era officially finished in the UFC as a UFC women's flyweight champion? We will see tonight at UFC NOCHE whether or not she still has what it takes to be the top of the heap in the flyweight division, or if the tough up-and-coming Alexa Grasso is going to retain her title, defend her title, and put on the performance we expect from her tonight at UFC NOCHE. All right, guys, and last but not least, we get to our main event of the evening. This is for the undisputed 135-pound bantamweight UFC championship belt. Our reigning champion, Sugar Sean O'Malley, puts his belt on the line against the up-and-coming Georgian fighter in Merab Dvalishvili. I don't even know if I'm saying his last name correctly. That's just how I say it. I've given up on trying to spell it and pronounce it. This matchup is gearing up to be one of the best of the year. Sugar Sean O'Malley looks like a kid I used to steal lunch money off of, but I wouldn't want to steal his lunch money because he will knock you out cold. He's got deadly precision with his hands. He's unusually fast. He's tall for the weight division. He's a 5'11 fighter at 135 pounds. That makes him very big, gives him a big reach in that division. His striking is immaculate. His takedown defense is great. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He competes in jiu-jitsu tournaments outside of the UFC regularly. So he's an all-around fighter. He is a superstar in the UFC. He is nipping at the heels of a type of superstar quality that a Conor McGregor or a John Jones has. He's an active fighter. He wins fights. He takes the hardest fights, the fights against Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo and the likes of the best in the bantamweight division. He's fought them all. He's gone up against them all. He's trash-talked them all. He's knocked a lot of them out. He's finished a lot of them. Most notably, his fights against Chito Vera. He avenged his loss against Chito Vera in his last fight where he punished Chito Vera for the entirety of that fight. It's really amazing that guy stood in there and didn't go down. That knee that he landed on him sounded like a baseball bat hitting a watermelon. I don't know how it didn't knock him out, but He's taking on one of the most difficult challenges in the division, like he does every time, in Merab Dvalishvili. This guy is your typical, not typical, but what you would expect out of a Russian fighter. He is gritty. He does not go down. He's got a chin of steel, a lot like Chito Vera, but I would argue that he is much more skilled than Chito Vera. His takedown, his ground game, his chain wrestling, his fence wrestling, all of the things you'd expect from a Russian, Georgian fighter. Plus, he stays in there. He's got a heart of gold. He's got the grit. We saw in his last fight, he faced some adversity. He almost got knocked out in the first round. He was able to recover. He was able to maintain his composure. He was able to put on the pressure and finish the fight. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup between these two. They have the skills to finish each other. It's going to come down to who's more focused on the night, who executes their game plan the best. And I am really, really looking forward to this main event fight for the UFC Undisputed Bantamweight 135-pound strap at UFC NOCHE, UFC 306, live from the Sphere. All right, guys, let's talk about our bets and picks for the evening. Let's start with the Brian Ortega-Diego Lopes fight. On a straight-up pick, I am taking Brian Ortega. I also like the bet on Brian Ortega on the money line. Brian Ortega currently 160, plus 160 on the money line. Diego Lopes is favored, minus 192 on the money line. I think Brian Ortega has good equity at plus 160 there. I think he's got a chance to submit Diego Lopes or potentially knock him out. I think if it stays standing up on the feet, Diego Lopes may deliver a beating to Brian Ortega as the rounds go on. But I think that Brian Ortega always has a chance to pull off a submission in fights like these. So I think he's got good equity at plus 160. Let's jump into Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Schevchenko. Currently, they've got Alexa Grasso at a minus 135 favorite on the money line. She is minus 5.5 points on the spread. And I think that, and they've got Valentina Shevchenko as a plus 114 underdog in that. I think Valentina Shevchenko definitely has equity at plus 114. I definitely like that bet over the point spread or the over-under. And talking about the main event, Suga Sean O'Malley is favorite, minus 125 against Merab Dvalishvili at plus 105. I like the equity that Merab has there because he does have a chance to win this fight, but I don't think he gets it done against Suga Sean O'Malley. So my picks, if you're going to do a parlay, three-leg parlay, in my opinion, would be Suga Sean O'Malley, Valentina Shevchenko, and Diego Lopes. If you're looking at equity in these bets, I'm taking Brian Ortega plus 160 for a few bucks, and probably also Valentina Shevchenko plus 114 for a few dollars as well. All right, guys, my official picks are in. I like Suga Sean O'Malley to win that fight. I like Valentina Shevchenko to regain her title. And I also like Brian T-City Ortega to stay in that win column and keep climbing the ranks back for another title fight at featherweight. Those are my picks for the main, co-main, and third fight on the main card. So let me know what you guys think, if you agree with those picks or not. Either way, tune in tonight, September 14th at 10 p.m. live from the Sphere in Las Vegas. It is UFC NOCHE, UFC 306. And I think with the event, the arena, the theme of the show, I think it's going to be incredible. One-of-a-kind, unique show by the UFC. I'm really excited to see how it turns out. So I hope you guys tune in. Let me know what you think about these picks in the comments. And how do I always leave you, no matter what happens? Keep swinging.
Call me the prime host, Justin on the mic, dropping facts coast to coast. In the game of combat, yo, I'm the one they praise. From the cage to the ring on them glory days. I talk the MMA, the jabs, hooks, and straights. Boxing legends, the raw novices, we debate.